To remain updated with the latest business news, click on the bell icon.
Hello and welcome to this market special from Business Today. My guest today is a Doyen from the mutual fund industry. In fact, he's managed one of the largest mutual fund franchises in India for many, many years, even decades. Prashant Jain, Chief Investment Officer of HDFC Asset Management Company, joins us now. Prashant, it's good to see you again. It's an interesting time for the market as well, because after many months and quarters, we have a whiff of a correction. And of course, it's brought about by another variant of the pandemic or the variant of the COVID virus again. Do you fear at any level that these successive waves which are coming about, just when you think that you've seen the worst of the pandemic, could dent the confidence in an earnings recovery and in a market recovery which had come about and taken hold over the last many months?
Udayan, I'm an optimist by nature, and I think the way we have recovered from the first wave and even the impact of the second wave on the economy and on the markets was quite limited. So I feel optimistic that the third wave will also pass. Of course, I mean, sometimes the inconceivable is possible, but I don't see this derailing the economy or the profit growth. And what I also observed is that events that are anticipated by the system, by the infrastructure, by the governments, the regulators, by the markets, and when the system is on its guard, so to speak, then seldom that risk attaches itself meaningfully. And after the experience of last 2 years, I think the entire system world over is on its guard. So I think it is unlikely to my mind that this should cause any material challenges.
The other risk which is known to the market, but which is also causing some apprehension, is the prospect of interest rates going up next year, both globally and in India. Would you say the same that you just said of the COVID, that of this variant, that it is also a known risk and therefore it should not derail the market significantly, or is it too fundamental to be ignored?
Oh, there, I think it depends on the time frame what you talk. See, if you take a longish view of India, then we have lived with far higher interest rates, both locally and even in US. I mean, as recent as 2005, the US 10-year yield was about 4%. And even if you look at the economic growth prospects, then they were quite reasonable in India. So I would say increase in interest rates globally at least is widely anticipated. And to that extent, in line with what I said earlier, it should not have a significant impact on the markets. But then markets are prone to short-term corrections every now and then. And short-term in the markets is extremely hard to forecast. Also, we need to keep in mind that on the external side, India's fundamentals are actually quite strong. So even if there is some disruption in capital flows, I don't think the economy should get impacted. But stock markets are always prone to short-term change in flows or sentiment. So, but medium to long term, I think we should be able to handle that reasonably well.
So let me ask you a long-term question then, Prashant, because you are a long-term investor at heart. What about the other risk in this market, which is valuations? Because we've seen that over long periods of time, when you enter the market at a average P multiple of which is close to the average, which is 15, 16 for India, your returns tend to be over the longer term close to that 15 odd %. But when you buy at a P multiples of over 20, often the long-term returns are also quite subpar. They are not 15, 16%. Is that risk present in the market today, that investors who are entering today should not expect very high returns, that they should moderate their expectations because of the entry point?
Then I think that's a point extremely well made, and I would agree with you almost in entirety. That these are markets which are close to fair valuations. If you look at the last 10, 15-year returns, markets have yielded about, I think, 13 and 11% CAGR respectively. which is in line with the nominal GDP growth over the last 10 and 15 years. India's market cap to GDP or P multiples are also closer to long-term averages, maybe 10% higher or 10% lower. So I would agree with you that from here onwards, medium to long term, we definitely need to moderate our return expectations and not go by what has happened over last 2 years. And returns, to my mind, should be in line with the nominal GDP growth rates. Just two things more I would like to point out here. If this cost of capital stays lower than longer term averages for a while, it could be mildly supportive of higher multiples. And second, I think more important is that over long periods, it is the growth which is the real driver of returns and not variations in multiples. I mean, you can go back and see. The Indian markets have been at high P's, at low P's. Yes, near term, the returns can get impacted, but over really long periods, it is growth which is the real driver of returns, and the impact of change in multiples is actually quite small.
Prashant, Abha also joining in here. Wanted to get an understanding from you, given some of the context that you just laid out for us, where you really see growth coming from going forward. Do we look more at the domestic economy? Do we look at some of the old economy names perhaps that you see a value in at these levels? Where do you see that growth opportunity given the kind of market that we've all been watching go from record to record over the last few months?
No, I think, let me comment on the economy probably first. And I think this, the outlook for the economy is actually much better than it was pre-COVID, surprisingly.
Okay.
And the reasons for that are diverse, but it's, I think, almost all segments of the economy, whether it is consumption, private investment, infra investments, exports, the outlook is quite good. See, after quite a bit, we are seeing wage inflation in white collar wages. And that's a very important, very reliable long-term indicator. And I think that should be supportive of consumption. The affordability of homes in India is one of the best ever, driven by fairly steady real estate prices for a while.
Okay.
And lifetime low rates of mortgages. So I think there is considerable activity expected on that front. I think the post-COVID, the government's focus on infra investments, government's allocation towards capital expenditure, capital formation, and also the focus on recycling of existing assets through InvITs so that we can put up more assets, along with the significant capital flows, external capital flows that we are seeing in this space. I think make us optimistic on the infra space as well. I think last year has also seen a very interesting development. The profitability across the board of the manufacturing or the core sectors of the economy like metals, chemicals, textiles, paper, sugar has all gone up very sharply. Corporate leverage is, I think, between a 10 and 15-year low. Demand conditions are quite decent. So I think even industrial capex, I think this time should recover, and the confidence on that front is pretty high. And finally, I think what has happened due to the disruption in the supply chain caused in China due to COVID and the over dependence on that single country has led to a keen desire amongst buyers to de-risk or adopt a China plus one strategy. And given the fact that India's manufacturing wages are half of China, and this country offers scale, availability of skilled manpower, land, resources, etc., and the support of the government by way of PLI scheme, tariff, non-tariff policies, I think even the outlook for India gaining export share is pretty decent. So I firmly believe that the outlook for economic growth for India over next few years is probably much better than what we have experienced in the last 10 to 15 years.
Just taking off on that, from that, Prashant, when one looks at your portfolios across HDFC Asset Management Company equity products, you have at the top of your holdings some of these economy-facing banks, financial companies like SBI, ICICI Bank, but there is some apprehension in quarters, even in bankers, that maybe with the advent of digital fintechs, maybe banking will change over the next few years. It is already changing as we're seeing in the payments universe. And maybe some of these traditional banks may not be able to tap that opportunity, this economic recovery that you're talking about, as well as they have done in previous cycles. Is that a legitimate apprehension? Or do you think some of these prominent banks are the best positioned to ride this recovery?
No, there I think a great question. And I mean, the portfolios that you are referring to are probably the funds managed by me and my colleagues. I think run pretty different portfolios. But let me share with you my insights on this issue. See, I believe that banks will first be beneficiaries of the digitization or the changes that are taking place in this space. Because think of it this way, a bank that adopts technology, it drops costs, it improves customer service, it enhances the suite of products. And few years back, large banks could not write small loans profitably. And today, the largest of banks can write the smallest of loans profitably. And I mean, they can address almost an infinite number of customers. And I think we are seeing the benefits of that. So I feel the large banks that have contemporary digital platforms will actually gain market share over their smaller counterparts rapidly. And this technology offers you scope to drop your cost to income ratios as well. But yes, there will be competition in the very small loans from the fintechs, and there is no doubt. But I do feel that these banks have immense strength, and it will force them to change faster, and it will bring out the best of these banks. So I feel quite optimistic on this space. And in any case, when you talk of capex recovery, see, the way to look at banking at this stage is, I think, the credit cycle is behind us clearly, and what we anticipate in the future is the capex cycle. So faster credit growth should take place, and I don't think in that space fintechs have a role to play as yet. In the large loans, the corporate.
Let me ask you about another. Sure. Let me ask you about another part of the market which you guys at HDFC Equity Asset Management Company, you and your colleagues seem to be more bullish about than the rest of the market, which is this whole fixation with ESG, which a lot of investors have today. But, they would not buy coal companies or thermal power companies or tobacco companies, even at very, very throwaway valuations at stocks like NTPC and Coal India and ITC may be trading at today. But your funds and your colleagues' funds own a bunch of these public sector companies, tobacco companies. How do you sort of resolve this conundrum of this whole ESG business with what is happening in the world today and how you're approaching it?
Well, there again, I think a wonderful question, and once again, what I say is my view, and every portfolio manager at our company takes a view of their own, and they may hold independent views. So I think this debate about public and private sector has not been a balanced one, and people are ignoring simple facts and data points. And so I think there are good and bad PSUs and private companies, and we take care to buy these strong, sustainable, well-managed, competitive businesses in whatever sectors we are making investments. And these could be from public sector or these could be from the private sector. And the performance of, I think, some of the strong public banks should give some comfort to the market that their earlier views on all public sector being bad, I think was probably misplaced. Now, coming to the issue of ESG, see, I think the issue is very simple. I mean, no one wants carbon emissions, and all of us are for a cleaner, greener environment. The issue is, I mean, do I invest based on how I want to see the world, or do I invest based on how I actually see the world? The fact of the matter is that India's power demand will grow extremely rapidly. As we only 5% of homes in India have access to air conditioning. So as air conditioning improves, as manufacturing improves, as economic growth improves, and as electric vehicles come in over time, India actually should be prepared for fairly fast or decent growth in power sector. The second point is that unlike the West, in India, the demand for power on a daily basis peaks around the evenings. Unlike the West, where it peaks during noontime. And evening between 5 to 9, when our demand peaks, there is no sunlight. And storage is still very expensive. It will cost you anywhere between 6 to 10 rupees per unit to store power. So I think for a considerable period of time, I think based on various scenarios that we have run, we think India will continue to add more thermal power, whether we like it or not. And in China, you can see even today, the coal consumption is growing extremely rapidly, and they are ahead of us in terms of adoption of renewable sources of power. And finally, see, what is solar power? Solar power, the company that has the lowest cost of borrowing is the most competitive. I mean, there is little to differentiate between plant or O&M costs or wages, etc. Anyone who borrows the cheapest is most competitive in solar power. And some of these companies that you mentioned, they are without doubt, they have access to the cheapest debt capital. And that, I believe, will over time make them very competitive even in the solar space. So even these companies over time in proportionate terms will have more share of power coming from renewable sources. And therefore, I believe over time, they should do quite well.
Prashant, from the broader markets, and I ask you this because, you know, as a fund house, you're also known for really spotting those sub-themes and opportunities there as well. And you've mentioned broadly a couple of the buckets that you're looking at that could emerge going forward. You know, those that I also find particularly interesting, like consumption, real estate, and so forth. But, you know, if you were to kind of mention some of the outliers that you feel could come out and perform really well going forward in the new phase as we see it, you know, what would some of those be, if you could help us identify?
No, but see, these answers would vary from person to person. I mean, I feel that the India's prospects of capital expenditure, capital formation are very strong going forward, and businesses that are linked to that, I think, should do much better in terms of profit growth and probably also in terms of stock markets. So I think capital goods companies, engineering companies, and over time when capital formation picks up, the credit growth also picks up, and the large banks would be a direct beneficiary of that. Let us also keep in mind that in the last cycle, when capex was weak, metal prices were low, NPAs were high, these areas were laggards, and therefore certain sectors like consumer staples, etc., they were trading at extremely high PE multiples because there was a paucity or scarcity of profit growth elsewhere. So I think sectors that offer you reasonable growth prospects but are at very high multiples, and they were the leaders in the last cycle. I think those sectors, in my opinion, should also underperform on the other hand.
Sure. Any concerns at all about inflation or any expectations from the RBI, given that we are once again up for review? Do you feel monetary policy is largely aligned, or are you expecting anything out of the ordinary on that front?
I think about both locally and globally, interest rates over time should move up, though the extents could be different. And so I think, but so higher interest rates are clearly not good for asset prices, including equities. But in the early stages of interest rate rising cycle, I think it is more indicative of faster credit growth, of good solid economic prospects. And therefore, what has been observed earlier on is that in the initial stages, when interest rates are coming off lows, the markets continue to do well. But yes, if you take this to an extreme, and if you say interest rates will be much, much higher than where they are today, yes, over time it could have, it could impact the stock markets both in India and outside India. But I would again like to emphasize that India has seen interest rates between 5% 10-year yield all the way to 9-10% in last 20 years. And if you go back prior to that, even much higher. And we have seen US interest rates at much higher levels. And even in these periods, while markets did go up and down, but over long periods, they have done extremely well. So I think the simple message here is that over time, equities are impacted most by the underlying growth. And yes, some changes in interest rates could impact multiples here and there, but that impact is quite small compared to the impact of growth in economy and profits over time.
Just one quick last question, Prashant, because it is also an issue which concerns a lot of domestic investors who are entering the market today. But I mean, they look at the experience of the last many years, and they are not convinced that the fees that are paid to active funds are worth it, and therefore they should not buy very cheap index funds. Now, HDFC as an asset management company, of course, offers both active and passive. But where do you stand on that debate, where people might say, let me just buy the index and not try to be too clever, because at the end of the day, maybe only 2 or 3 of the funds end up beating the index, and they are terribly low cost. Do you think passive investing might become much bigger than active investing in the years to come?
Then I really don't think there is a debate. And see, the returns of the two categories are very close to each other. And I don't think it would be correct to say that just 2 or 3 funds outperform. In fact, I think active managers have a very strong track record in India, and including our funds, money has become 100 times in many funds over time. But yes, you are right in a way that calendar 18, 19 and 20 were 3 years where the bulk of the Nifty returns were driven by a handful of stocks. In fact, on an average, if you see over last 15, 20 years, the contribution of the 5 highest contributors to Nifty returns is typically around 40%. But in calendar 18, 19 and 20, it was around 140 and 80 and 80%. So when the markets were experiencing such a narrow rally, it was very difficult for most active managers to outperform. And that has indeed impacted some returns in recent times, some alpha. But I think as markets become more balanced, which 21, they seem to be like that, I think active managers should improve their performance. But I concede the point that there is space for both, and over time, both should continue to grow. And if you look at the flows even today, you can see the active funds are getting very strong flows. And that is, of course, because investors have had a good experience over the medium to long term from this. And one final point, if you think really long term, when the mutual fund ownership comes close to where it is in US, I think funds own close to 40% of the markets. In India, that number would be probably 1/4. I think as mutual funds own a bigger and bigger portion of the markets, I think generating alpha
Yeah.
would become that much harder. But let time answer that as to how we do over time. And I think there'll be other occasions to discuss this as well.
All right, Prashant, we wish you all the best with your funds and thank you very much for your time. Always a pleasure hearing your thoughts. Thank you for dropping in today.
Thanks, Udayan. Thanks, Abha. Thank you.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.